Great coaching, just the whole nine. I mean, you can't really just pick one thing. You know, they're well coached. You can tell they playing together. Like Nick said, nobody's worrying about their shots. They're getting their shots in the floor of the offense, ain't forcing anything, and they're letting Al Horford be their leader. And that's what's great about it. Everybody's respected on that team. Nobody's better than the other, and that's how you win games. That's how you have a winning organization, when everybody puts their personal game aside and plan for the team and the organization. And you got to credit that to the coach, but also to the players.
Yeah, we know they're well coached. We know they're going to play great defense. But the thing that surprised everyone, the reason why they're ahead, is because their offense haven't improved. Second half of the season, since the All-Star break, they had a number of injuries. All we did was talk about Cleveland and their injuries and lack of continuity, the lack of minutes that the starting five had spent on the court. But Boston had a similar problem. They had a bunch of injuries late. They had a bunch of lineup changes. They didn't know who was going to be their primary scorers. They didn't see Jaylen Brown and them being able to take over quarters and parts of game. Him and Tatum, like, they didn't see this. Rozier being a legitimate starting guard. So the good defense now is coupled with an offense that's figured it out. They play a lot better at home.
Yeah.
So now they just need one game on the road. But that's how they have gotten this 2-0 lead. Great defense coupled with their extended season. Their offense has gotten a lot better, and you see that in their top three scorers, all of them averaging 6, 5, and 3 more points than they did during the regular season.
And typically when a team loses its superstar, that hurts you because you don't have that superstar, but also because the guy replacing him, there's a reason he's not a starter. Because of the way the Celtics supercharged the rebuild via the heist trade with Brooklyn, and because of some very savvy moves aside from that Danny Ainge has made, you look at who they're playing. Number 3 overall pick, Al Horford. Number 3 overall pick, Jaylen Brown. Number 3 overall pick, Jason Tatum. Number 6 overall pick, Marcus Morris. Number 6 overall pick, Marcus Smart. Yeah. Lottery pick, Marcus Morris. And just out of the lottery, Terry Rozier. These are all guys who, when they came into the league, aside from Rozier really, were very highly regarded. So, and then you add the fact that Tatum now, I know he's a rookie, kind of. He's going to end up playing the 5th most minutes of any rookie in the playoffs in the history of the league after playing 80 games this regular season.
And one thing they're benefiting from, they're playing against the oldest team left in the playoffs in the Cavs. And you can see it. They're more powerful, and they got more speed than the Cavs. So they can break them down. Jaylen and Tatum, the reason why they're not afraid is, look who they're going against offensively. Besides when LeBron switched on them, Kyle Korver, J.R. Smith, like, these young players are excited and playing with a bunch of confidence.
Yeah, and then you got to credit that to the coach, you know, to be in this moment, to have these young guys, even like the non-starters coming in and playing with confidence. You have to credit that to the coach, because a lot of times when you lose your star, the confidence of the team goes down. The other guys that's playing, like you said, you got a guy that's coming off the bench star. We're not confident in him. We need our other guy. The confidence just goes down. The coach did a great job of keeping everybody confident, from the first guy to the 15th guy. And like I said again, playing together and playing for each other makes a big difference.
Look, the Celtics are in a good position right now. You know this. Teams that are up 2-0 in the playoffs in NBA history go on to win like 95% of the time. And yet, there seems to be such a discrepancy between the way the Celtics team plays at home and the way they play on the road. Do they have to change anything up? Is there anything they're going to do differently? I mean, why has there been such a discrepancy?
Well, this one being young comes into play.
Yes.
Going on the road, those same shots might not fall. You got to still be able to keep your composure. And this team has done that for the most part. But it's a different game on the road. The crowd's different. It's just a different feel. And you have to have experience to be able to thrive in that type of environment. And these guys are young, but we'll see if they – but you can't win like that at home. That's the way you do on the road. They had a lot of turnovers. They played a little – those loose balls they get at home, they might not get on the road. A lot of shots might not fall. So it's going to be a different game. Yeah. I don't think personally that they can win the same way that they play at home on the road.
Yeah, those energy plays, because you don't have the energy from the crowd.
Right.
So playing on the road, you're also at the hotel. You also have to manage your time, your free time. You have to manage people getting a hold of you. Compare it to being at home, sleeping in your own bed, knowing how you're going to get to the game. Role players play better in an environment that they're comfortable.
Right.
That's why on the road, you need superstar players to build takeover, the crowd, to build silence the crowd, because that's what you have to do. You have to create your own momentum on the road, and it's harder for younger players to be able to do that.
Right. And I want to get back to something you said about coaching, because you know who was very complimentary of Brad Stevens after the game yesterday? Just about every Cav you asked. Unprompted or prompted. Man, they're a really well-coached team. Man, their coach made some really good adjustments. And while I think at times Ty Lue has not gotten enough credit, this is a guy who was the head coach of a team that beat a 73-win team in the finals. This is a guy that's dealt with multiple different variations of his own team this year, that deals with the positives and the negatives of coaching a personality as powerful as LeBron James. But Ty Lue yesterday at times fell asleep at the wheel. In the third quarter, when the Celtics are turning a 7-point deficit to a 7-point lead, 26, I think, to 16 run, you don't make a single substitution. Late in the game, when LeBron comes back in, cuts it to 6 points. The insertion he makes is not Kyle Korver. It's JR, who was 0 for 6 in that basketball game. What does JR promptly do? Pays him back by taking a terrible shot, then committing a flagrant foul the next time down the court. Now it's 10 points, and the game is effectively over. He decided Larry Nance, who hadn't played all postseason, basically. He's going to be your second man off the bench without any real rationale there. I thought
also said afterwards that he got outdueled almost. Like, they were more aggressive. He said, I'm sorry, they were just a lot more aggressive. They were way more physical than we were. He just said that flat out.
Yeah, that's not a coach thing. That's a player and an attitude thing. That's not the coach's responsibility.
That's a shot at the players. Honestly, because when the coach in the press conference said that they play more physical than us, that's his way of saying we have to get more physical and we have to be the hit first team.
I'm glad you brought that up, Jenna, because that's what I thought was so interesting. The coach is almost never going to directly say in a press conference, this player was bad. And a player almost never is going to say our coach was bad. But when you go out of your way to compliment the other team's coach as a player, that's a shot at your coach often. And when a coach goes into the press conference and says they were more aggressive, they hit first, that's a shot at you guys. Van Gundy had an interesting note during the game. He said the Cavs look like a couple in a bad marriage. They're rolling their eyes at each other. They seemed like they didn't want to be there, Stephen, in their second most important game of the year, despite the fact that their best player was playing out of his mind. Like, when you're playing with Duncan, and Duncan is locked in and killing it, what does that do for your level of interest? You are maybe a bad example because you were 100% basically every game. But for the guys around you that weren't always as locked in as you, what would it do when you saw your best player playing at that level?
Well, anytime Tim Duncan was at the top of his game, one thing about him, it just made everybody else better. It wasn't like feeding off him, because once he started dominated, then they start double teaming. I'm going to get wide open shots the rest of the game. He just made you better. It wasn't just watching him and it was contagious. It's just him and involved in the game and actually making you better as a player. You know, just dominating the game and you feeding off his greatness. A lot of shots I got in the finals was wide open because they had to double team Tim Duncan. It's just commanding your greatness and being great on the court, and that's what he did. And when you have a guy like that, you have to feed off of it, though. You have to. There's no way you can let him go to war by himself. And to touch on what T. Lue said, I can see him saying stuff like that about being aggressive and the team hitting us first, because he was a feisty little guy.
Yes.
He played hard.
That's why he used the term they zoomed it up. That was a term that they used in an era for which they played, where they would foul you hard and they would do certain things to you.
He come from that era. So when he says stuff like that, he wishes he could translate what's in him to his teammates, and it's hard to do that.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.